Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Man vs. Reality. Especially welcome back if you managed to get through the first one. Yeah, it was a little bit all over the place, a little bit repetitive, a little bit drawn out. But I think I managed to get the point across. More just an introduction on what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, how I'm going to do it. There was some interesting stuff, but I think it was hidden among a lot of babbling. So if you've come back again, thanks very much. Or if this is the first one that you're watching, absolutely amazing, or listening to, indeed, because it's a podcast and a video show. If you didn't watch the first one, I just want to know what we're about. Basically, it's me sat here for an hour talking about a subject, and you're going through the research that I do, because I'm not in any way qualified, on the internet, so you can follow along at home and see what we come up with. This second episode, very topical at the minute, because I don't think you can escape the notice that the Queen of the UK has passed away this past week. No matter what your views on it, it's very sad. Apparently she was a nice lady. She was 96 years old, I believe, at the time of her passing. But you also can't escape the fact that it is very controversial in the minute. There are a lot of people very sad, very upset. They wonder what's going to happen next to the country, which immediately made me think, well, nothing, because they don't have the power to do or change anything. And then I thought, well, do they? I don't know. So I thought it'd be an amazing topic to cover on the show, to have a look, because the gaps in my knowledge are massive. I imagine the gaps in yours will be just as big. So yeah, hopefully we'll find out together. A lot of people are mad at the royal family, calling them colonialists, saying that they're responsible for genocides and a bunch of other different things. I thought we could have a look, see if that's true, and basically to see, is there any point in having them there? What do they do? What do they stand for? What can they do? What can't they do? And all this kind of thing. I mean, we know for a fact that they're born into it. They don't really have much choice. And when they do exercise that choice, like Prince Harry has done with his new wife, Meghan Markle, they're just going to get vilified by everybody who likes royals. And then, again, that split the camp completely in two, didn't it? Because you got half of them thinking that he was brilliant for actually getting away and running away from what he was doing. And then you got the other half, the royalist side of things, who basically vilified him, saying that she has split up the family and that he's just a bad guy and has no control. So let's have a look at all that. Let's have a start. Again, the format is this. If you're watching on the video side of things on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see I'm doing a video of my screen with a nice little Google box there, because we're basically going to Google everything. On the last show, we saw how to check our sources and to try and find out how reliable the website is that we're going to be reading from the best of our ability. So we're going to be doing a bit of that while we look at all these facts that are coming up regarding the royals. Hopeful facts, anyway, we shall see. Like I said, it was a little bit meandering and a little bit all over the place, that last episode. So I have a screen up here with some other little tidbits on that I wanted to do. So I established that the thing that I wanted to use in the shows to make sure we were completely completely impartial, and that everything went kind of as above board and as transparent as possible, was to follow the steps of the scientific method. So we looked it up on a couple of websites, and we got these basic tenets of the scientific method. So that's what we're going to be following in a basic kind of loose sense. You guys are going to be the last one, so showing and communicating results to others, as it says there, that's going to be you guys, which is why I'm recording this whole thing either on a video or on a podcast. So if you're on the podcast, I'm going to be saying all the websites that I'm on. If you're on the video, you can see exactly what I'm doing, where I'm clicking and where I'm going. And then underneath this, I've just typed out a few things that I thought would be good to look at. I'm going to give myself about an hour for each one of these podcasts, so this should fill the time okay. So start off with the basics. What is the UK monarchy? Who's next in line to the throne? As we know now, it's Prince Charles III, King Charles III, as he is going to be known now after his mother has just died. But who's after that? it's really, really odd, especially the fact that we've just had a queen as well, because it tends to go down the male line of succession, doesn't it? So obviously there was no male above Elizabeth to take on the king role, so it went to her and she's just been the queen. But Charles has two sons, William and Harry, but I think what happens is that the oldest son takes over and then it goes down his line. So it'll go down to William, who's the oldest son, but then it'll go down to his sons rather than going to his brother Harry, who you would think weird as hell. Anyway, we'll have a look at that, see who's next in line. What power do they actually have? So there's been like a big separation for years and years. The thing called the Magna Carta, which was drafted up to give power to the people of the UK rather than just have it one family who was born into power that controls everything. It's elected MPs, members of parliament. They're officials that are supposed to represent us. So yeah, the power's with the people and not with the monarchy. So then what's the point in them? Hopefully we're going to find out. How much does it cost? Royal family are funded by taxpayers. But like, there's been stories this week of William and Kate making something like £1.2 billion in one single day. Where's that money come from? We're not just giving it to them, I don't think. Sort of like, what other income streams do they have? So we'll have a look, especially into that story, because that really, really interested me when that's come up. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. And then, were they involved in colonialism? So this is one thing that's been bandied about quite a lot. Why we should get rid of the monarchy is because the colonialists, because they took over and went to other countries, took over and imposed their rule on other countries. Did they actually do that? Did they have the power to actually do that? Or was it the UK government that did that? Are there other things that we should be mad at them about? Yeah, so we'll see. So then we'll draw a conclusion to all this kind of thing and see what we can come up with. And then, well, I'm not going to say what I think. I'm going to try not to say what I think. It's probably going to come across whether they actually do anything, whether it's worth actually having them, or we just keep them around for tradition or anything along those lines. So let us crack on with the first search about what the actual monarchy are. So, what is the UK monarchy? There we go, come up with that top one. So click on there. So the first one it's come up with on our Google search is an article from Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is quite good because it comes up with it does cite all of its sources, but anybody can comment on that. Basically, it's come up with the first few lines. As the monarchy is constitutional, the monarch is limited to functions such as bestowing honours and appointing the Prime Minister, which are performed in a non-partisan manner. So they're not allowed to say whether they support any political party. They just say, congratulations, you're Prime Minister now. The monarch is also able to advise, generally done in secret, to change draft laws. That's quite interesting. So the way the UK works when it's making laws is it'll be debated in the House of Commons, and then once it's passed in whatever form in the House of Commons, generally voted on by a majority of whoever's in charge, it's then passed up to the House of Lords, who then again debate it and they pass it or fail it. So it looks like here that the monarch can advise on laws that have been drafted, but obviously we can't find out about it, and I don't think they have the power to actually just shoot laws down. The monarch is also head of the British Armed Forces, which is quite interesting. So does that mean that they can declare war, or does that mean it has to be a different thing? Right, okay, so let's click on this top one here. This looks, I mean, it'll be biased definitely towards the monarchy, I imagine, because it is royal.uk that we're on here, and it's saying the role of the monarchy, and a big picture of the Queen. The monarchy, a king of queen, is head of state. The British monarchy is known as a constitutional monarchy. This means that while they're the sovereign head of state, the ability to make and pass legislation resides with an elected parliament. So they can't make and pass laws. As we've just seen from that Wikipedia article, they can give advice, but that advice obviously doesn't need to be listened to, which is what they just said there. Although the sovereign no longer has political or an executive role, he or she continues to play an important part in the life of the nation. Yeah, okay, so does it though? As head of state, the monarch undertakes constitutional and representational duties, which have developed over 1,000 years of history. In addition to their state duties, the monarch has a less formal role as head of nation. The sovereign acts as a focus for national identity. Oh my god, this is just dry as fuck. Why can't you just say what it does? So in support members of her immediate family. So it's got a picture there of still on Queen Elizabeth. Obviously, it's not got up to the current one. Features the Queen and government. Okay, so it's sent. That's it. That's basically all it says. It doesn't tell us the actual roles. Yeah, very odd. So this is the official royal website, and it's literally just said that they don't really do anything. So this is a related article from the same website. The Queen and the government. Again, another nice short one. The Queen's role in government. As head of state, the monarch has to remain strictly neutral with respect to political matters. So she can't lean one way or the other, say who she supports. There's a bunch of links down the side here, which also look really, really dry. All right, so we'll have a look again in a minute. So carry on with this article for a minute. By convention, the monarch does not vote or stand for an election. However, they do have an important ceremonial and formal roles. The formal phrase "crown in Parliament" is used to describe British legislature, which consists of the Sovereign, House of Lords and House of Commons. It's still not any clearer. Queen also has a special relationship with the Prime Minister, the King now, retaining the right to appoint, also meetings with him or her on a regular basis. So it sounds like they have some input. They can literally chat to whoever their Prime Minister is, but they can't really do anything else, it looks like. Right, so let's go back to the start and see what the crack is here. UCL, Parliament and the Crown. BBC. And what does the King do? Right, okay, so here's a BBC article called UK Royal Family, Who is in it and What Does the King Do? What does the King do? Here we go. The King is the UK head of state. Yep, been there. However, his powers are symbolic and ceremonial, and he remains politically neutral. So they can't really do anything, can they? He will receive daily dispatches from the government in a red letter box, such as briefings ahead of important meetings and documents needing his signature. But what's the point in having his signature if he can't do anything? The Prime Minister will normally meet the King on Wednesdays at Buckingham Palace to keep him informed of government matters. These meetings are completely private. There is no official record of what's said. The King also has a number of parliamentary functions. Here we go. Appointing a government. The leader of a party who wins a general election is usually called to Buckingham Palace, where they are formally invited to form a government. The King also formally dissolves a government before a general election. But they don't have any power to say no, do they? If some complete tosspot gets elected who is like, right, we're going to murder every single person in the UK, on the 5 years that we're there, he can't turn around and say no. So he doesn't have any power to do that. State openings and the King's speech. Royal assent. When a piece of legislation is passed through Parliament, it must be formally approved by the King in order to become law. The last time royal assent was refused was in 1708. Right, so that's going to be interesting to have a look at. So they can refuse to pass a law into legislation. So then what happens? Right, so let's open another little box here and have a quick sidebar on what happens there. What happens when royal assent is refused, is not given. There we go. What happens if royal assent is not given? So again from Wikipedia, if consent is required but not signified, the bill may make no further progress through Parliament. If a bill is mistakenly allowed to progress even though the required consent was not signified, and the error is discovered before royal assent has been given, the proceeds may later be declared void. Quora.com, okay, so royal assent and Great Seal of Scotland. What is royal assent? Could government advise the Queen? Royal Assent Act of 1967, blah 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 blah. Can a bill become law without royal assent? So again, this is from Wikipedia. Alright, there you go, you see. Can a bill become law without royal assent? It is not actually necessary for the government general to sign a bill passed by the legislature. Oh my god. The signature being merely... Right, so that doesn't answer any of our questions. When was the last time the Queen did not give assent? It didn't really do anything. What would happen step by step? Here we go. So this is Quora.com, which is basically... I think it's where people ask questions and people jump in and answer them to the best of their knowledge. Companies supplying the government or undertake government contracts. God, this is boring. What would happen step by step if the Queen or Queen of the UK did not assent to a bill passed by Parliament against the advice of ministers? It doesn't seem to... Use dissent. Needless to say, the government was furious. So basically, glancing over this article that's come on the Quora website, a guy called Brendan Harding, who is a retired Canadian diplomat to the UK, to the US, sorry. He's got a BA in journalism, so it tells us everything there. So I think this is to do with the Canadian Parliament rather than ours. So it basically says that if they refuse to give parliamentary consent to Parliament against ministers' advice, ministers will put pressure on them until they did. So basically nothing. God, it's so hard just to find a straight answer, isn't it? What a friggin' nightmare. That's kind of why I set up this podcast, but still, you know. Here we go. Can the Queen overrule the Prime Minister? So again, this is from Wikipedia. Can the Queen... The monarch remains constitutionally empowered to exercise the royal prerogative against the advice of the Prime Minister or the Cabinet, but in practice would likely only do so in emergencies or where existing precedent does not adequately apply to the circumstances in question. So again, that doesn't really answer the question, but I think that's probably the best that we're going to get. So basically what happens is they take a bill to the King or the Queen, who have to sign off on it, and if they refuse to do that, then Parliament will put pressure on the King or the Queen, refusing to give them money and freezing their assets and whatnot until they do decide to bring the bill into law. So again, they don't really seem to have much power. So back to this BBC article about the roles of the royals. So that was royal assent. Host visiting dignitaries, we know that. The King is head of the Commonwealth. But what does that even mean? So they don't seem to have that much power. Here we go. So at least we can answer the next question on this. Oh crap. Just sent us back a page. That's not what we wanted. There we go. So back to this BBC. Nice spammy fingers. Back to the BBC website. That was what was the role? What does the King actually do? So it doesn't seem like they really do anything. They're basically just a figurehead for the country. They can give out knighthoods. They say, yes, you may form a government, even though they don't seemingly have the power to say, no, you can't form a government. Because seemingly the precedent there is, if they do that, then the parliament will turn against the monarchy and try and freeze their assets to force them into making the decision that they want. So the next question I had up on my nice little Word document, I'm going to go back and see if I can find out some more about what's actually going on, and what actual powers that they have to do things, because I don't think we're finished with that yet, because we haven't actually found any. I mean, we found that the answer might be no, and it's looking like the answer might be no. They don't have any actual power. I'd like to look into a bit more the head of the armed forces as well, to see what role that they can have there, whether they actually declare war or not. So next question, like I said, was who is in line to the throne? So I did a bit of a babble about this before. So if you can see online on this BBC website, they've given us a handy picture of the UK royal family and line of descendants. So basically the line of succession goes from Queen Elizabeth down to King Charles III, which is who we've got now. And then we'll pass down to William. And then in line under William is Prince George, who is William's eldest son. Now, after that, I'm assuming it would be Prince Louis, who is William's youngest son, and then it would be Princess Charlotte. Or, in that case, would it pass on to Harry? So Harry is like nowhere near in the running. He's at least third or fourth, I believe. I don't know whether Harry has precedent over Princess Charlotte. So let's Google that. Would Harry be king before Charlotte is queen? The royal line of succession, who's next? Okay, so this is theweek.co.uk. Yes, agree to all the cookies. And this is an article called, which was from the 5th of January 2020. Could Harry and Meghan Markle become King and Queen of Canada? It's not what we want at all. But then again, King and Queen of Canada, I'm pretty sure that's the same. Let's see what the crack is. Why does Princess Charlotte... So this is Quora again, which is, like I say, articles. And this question is, why does Princess Charlotte in line before Prince Harry? So it does look like... It says, because Parliament revised the Act governing the succession so that the firstborn child of Prince William would be next in line to the throne regardless of the child's sex, and could not be surpassed by later born children regardless of sex. Okay, so it looks like Charlotte will be next in line after William's oldest son. So, yeah. It looks like it'd go down to William, and then it looks like it'd go down to all three. All three of his family before it went back up and onto Harry. But, you know, let's just check and do another quick Google search for Harry's sake. So where is Harry in line to the throne? 5th. He's 5th in line. Is that new though? Okay, so yeah, so this is the 11th of the 9th. What are we on? Washington Post. Oh my god, here we go again. All the cookies in the world. See where it's just said that. Harry is fifth in line to the throne, despite a controversial decision to step back from royal duties and move to the United States with Meghan Markle. Yeah, so we know all that. Following the Queen's death and the ascension of Charles to monarch, the two Sussex's children are entitled to the titles of Prince and Princess. So that's William's two youngest. The right stems from protocols dating back to George V in 1917. Blah 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 blah. Sovereigns are granted those titles automatically. Yeah, so he's fifth in line. So basically, it's William's three kids, and then Harry, if it comes into that. So there we go. There's the line of succession. I don't think we might see William in our lifetime, depending on King Charles, because King Charles at the moment is how old? Charles the Third. King Charles is 73 in a minute, so, and William is already 40. So yeah, there's a very good chance that we'll still see William's rule in my lifetime. I don't think we'll see getting on to any of his children, even though me and William are pretty much the same age. But you know, he's definitely got better healthcare than I have, and he's going to outlive me without even trying. I do feel. I imagine it's living in a castle that does that for you. I wouldn't mind giving it a go, but there you go. Right, so where are we up to? So we can't really find much about what power they have. They seemingly are just figureheads. And yeah, they don't really have much in the way of power. So let's Google that anyway, because we're still not off what the monarchy is in the UK. So they're basically heads of state that don't really have any power. Yeah, so what power does the UK, does the monarchy have? Constitutional monarchy bestowed. So basically, it looks like their only power. This is from Wikipedia again, at the top of the Google search for what power does the monarchy have, and it said basically limited functions such as bestowing honours on the appointed Prime Minister, which is the same thing that came up as before. What powers does King Charles III have? UCL AC. Right, so this is I don't. Ah, no. Okay, so explainer. What is the role of the monarchy? So this is ucl.ac.uk. What is the role of the monarchy? The monarchy is the head of state but does not rule. The Queen is constitutionally obliged to follow the government's advice. So basically, the government tells the Queen what to do. The Queen appoints the PM and other ministers, opens new parliament sessions, and undertakes state visits. The Queen also acts as head of the nation. Yeah, so that's just confusing the issue again. In this role, she is the focus of national identity and represents stability and continuity. Right, so she's apparently something for us all to aspire to. Okay. Right, here we go. So here's a bit about the Commonwealth. The Queen is also head of state for 14 other countries around the world, known as the Realms. So this is the UK, the United Kingdom, and the Commonwealth. These include Australia, Canada, Jamaica, and New Zealand. Head of state of the Commonwealth. Oh no, so that's different. Right, so okay, so this is Commonwealth and the Realms. Again, a nice example of me not being able to read, which is all good. So the Realms are 14 other countries of which the Queen is head of state, which include Australia, Canada, Jamaica, and New Zealand. But the Queen is also head of the Commonwealth, a voluntarily association of 54 states, mainly formerly British colonies and dependencies. So basically, the people that we colonised, which takes us nicely to that very end question. Of are they colonialists? So I mean, that kind of answers whether they're colonialists anymore or not, doesn't it? It's a voluntary association, the Commonwealth. So they don't have to be in it if they don't want to. They just want the Queen to be head of their shit. The realms, on the other hand, that might be a different state of affairs, because it doesn't say that that's voluntary, does it? So that'll be something that's interesting to look at. So let's go back to our original search. With what power does the monarchy have? So this is huffworks.com. Quite interesting. So let's have a look at this. Written by a guy called Dave Roos. Freelance journalist, Huffworks since 2007. Putting on every topic under the sun: history, culture, politics, economics. From Pittsburgh, Duke University. He has a BA in religious studies. Okay, so at least it tells us who he is. He's not just an anonymous face. It was updated on September 8th in 2022. So this is what power did she actually have. Died on September the 8th at home in Balmoral at the age of 96. And ruled longer than any other monarch. She just celebrated 70 years on the throne. Jesus Christ, that's amazing. Some people are wondering if she ever held real power, and if the UK's constitutional monarchy. The Queen's reserves powers. Technically, the Queen retained certain political powers known as her personal prerogative, or the Queen's reserve powers. Among those reserve powers were the power to appoint a Prime Minister. Yeah, but we know that. They don't get to choose the Prime Minister, we do, and she just says you're allowed to be Prime Minister. As she just did the other day, that we all know about, Liz Truss. To open sessions of Parliament and to approve legislation. So like we were saying before, she doesn't really do it. But those powers, said Philip Murphy. Who the hell is Philip Murphy? Doesn't really say who Philip Murphy is, so why in the hell are we taking those this guy's word for anything? Oh, see, again, look, dumbass. It says it right here. Have been heavily restricted, but those powers, said Philip Murphy, have been heavily restricted by constitutional conventions. Murphy is director of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies at University College London and the author of The Empire's New Clothes, The Myth of the Commonwealth. We spoke to him in 2020. The Queen has power, but the question is how much discretion does she have within those powers? Co-author of the report. Monarchy. So it doesn't look like she has any personal discretion when it comes to the actual powers that she does have. So she can't choose. There you go. So it says it here. So according to Robert Hazel, co-author of a report on the changing role of the monarchy, the Queen was effectively stripped of all of her personal discretion when it came to her reserve powers. She had no real choice about who became Prime Minister, for example, or which bills became law. The voters and elected officials made those decisions, and her only real job was to give the royal stamp of approval. Right, so she doesn't have any actual power to change anything. Lack of true political power. I mean the Queen wasn't okay, so the lack of her political power doesn't mean that Queen Elizabeth wasn't powerful. The monarch has 3 essential rights: to be consulted, to encourage, and to warn. Okay, so she can basically give advice. That's it. So, as head of state, she needs to be kept updated. She can encourage people and she can warn them not to do things. So she basically has the power of influence, but no real power to exercise that influence. So if she tells them to do one thing and they tell them to jam it up their arse, or he in this case keeps, this article is when was this written? So it was updated on the 22nd with the things about the Queen's death, but they're still talking about the actual Queen in relation to her power, which is obviously the same power that Charles is going to have when he comes to the throne. So basically they can tell her to jam it up her ass. Thanks for the advice, but how about a big fat no? Appointing the Prime Minister, goes into a bit of detail about that. Opening and closing Parliament. Again, if she didn't open or close Parliament, then I don't think anything would really happen. Parliament in two ways. Sessions of Parliament can be ended in two ways. They can be dissolved, which only happens before a general election, or they can be proroguing. We've had a lot of experience with that in the past few years in the UK, not fun, which means that Parliament goes into recess for a set amount of time and can't pass any more bills. The Queen no longer has any power to dissolve Parliament. This was repealed in 2011 with the Fixed Term Parliamentary Act. Automatically dissolves Parliament every 5 years. So that basically means anybody who's voted into office as Prime Minister or is the ruling party, they have to have a general election every 5 years. Or earlier if 2/3 of... So then Parliament can choose to change that, but they need a 2/3 vote. Prorogue formally end of Parliament. Okay. Other ceremonial powers. Here we go. As part of the British constitutional monarchy, the Queen is obliged to give royal assent to any bills that are passed. So she's obliged to do that anyway. Her approval is purely a formality, since the last time royal assent was refused was in 1707. So if we open that in a new tab, we can see why it was removed. When a bill is being completed. So this has taken us to a BBC news article again. Here we go. So royal assent has not been refused since 1707, when Queen Anne refused it for a bill for settling the militia in Scotland. Usually, public bills which have not been passed by the end of the parliamentary session are lost. Following a recommendation... Oh, okay, so it doesn't tell us what actually happened after she refused to do that. So let's copy that and paste that chisel into a Google search. Refused the bill. So let's Google that, see if it tells us what happened. Scottish Militia Bill. So this is Wikipedia. I'm trying to avoid Wikipedia because anybody can change it at any point. But like I say, I do quite like that website. Okay, so let's have a look at this. European Royal History. It's a WordPress website. 1714, Queen of England. March 8th, 1702 and May the 1st, 1707. Union Acts, Scotland. So it was the Scottish Militia Bill that she refused to act upon, known formally as the Scottish Militia Bill. Was a bill that was passed by the House of Commons and House of Lords in early 1708. However, on March the 11th, Queen Anne withheld her royal assent on the advice of her ministers for fear that the proposed militia would be disloyal. Don't care about content of the bill, just really want to see what happened afterwards. In the British colonies, the denial of royal assent had continued past 1708. Was one of the primary complaints of the United States Declaration of Independence. Okay, right, so that's just America. So basically, that was the Americans saying, right, okay, so yeah, basically we're no real further forward on that, but yeah, so there we go. So move on to the next one, because she's basically can't refuse to do something that was put forward by the elected officials of the country. The sovereign head of state, the Queen, was also head of the armed forces, which gave her the power to declare war and sign treaties. But, like her other reserve powers, she exclusively acted under the advice of government ministers, including the Prime Minister. She also gave out knighthoods and awards for exceptional achievement. The service took place twice a year in the New Year's honours under guaranteed good weather. But again, the honours were not hers to decide. Committees of experts, along with government representatives, presented her with a final list of people to be honoured by the Prime Minister. So again, nothing. So the monarchy are basically a figurehead, it looks like. Yeah, that's it. So head of the armed forces. I wanted to have a quick look at what that meant. The Queen and the armed forces. So this has taken us to a link again on royal.uk, which is the official website of the royal family. The Queen and the armed forces. As sovereign, the Queen is head of the armed forces and is also the wife, mother and grandmother of individuals who have served. Yeah, we know that. The Queen's relationship with the armed forces began when Princess Elizabeth joined the Auxiliary Territorial Services in 1945, becoming the first female member of the royal family. Yeah, we don't care. Since then, the Queen has maintained a close relationship with the armed forces. Yes, we knew. As is the tradition on a monarch's birthday? No, but what can she actually do? Wards of various myriad institutes. So then, again, that doesn't tell us what powers that she has. So I think the only answer that we're going to get to that is in this article, again, from historyofhowstuffworks.com. Which is the article we've been looking at by Dave Roos, which basically says that she does have the power to declare war as a head of the armed forces and to sign treaties with different sovereign nations. But see, again, that just says she exclusively acted under the advice of government ministers, including the Prime Minister. So she didn't actually declare war. She said okay when they said that they wanted to declare war. So that's the only real power it looks like she has. It looks like she might be able to just go, fuck this country in particular, let's go to war with them. But then, again, with any other of her powers, it looks like Parliament would just say, well, we're not giving you any more money if you do that, and put the squeezes on her. So basically, it doesn't look like they have any real power. They're just national figureheads. And something for us to look up to. And it looks like they're being used as if, as long as the monarchy are there, Britain is going to be okay. Doesn't feel like that's the case. But yeah, whatever. So what we saw before was the Commonwealth. And so we'll go back to that actually in a minute. So I want to have a look at the Commonwealth and the realms in the colonialism question, which I'm going to say to last in a bit of a minute. So we'll do now, how much does the royal family cost? The royal... There we go. How much does the royal family cost in the UK? The royal family cost UK taxpayers over $120 million last year. So this is obviously a US website, marieclaire.com. So here we go. So Bloomberg.com. this will hopefully break it down for us quite well. That stupid advert to load up and bog off. There we go. Here we go. So, how much does the royal family cost? A breakdown of the key figures. Exactly what we want. The Press Association. It looks like they're the people who wrote the article. Looks like the Press Association. Here are some key figures from the royal accounts from 2020 and 2021. 86.3 million. The total taxpayer-funded sovereign grant. So is that how much they get just for being the sovereign? Okay, so made up of 51.8 million for the core funding and an extra 34.5 million for looking after Buckingham Palace, basically. 102.4 million pounds official expenditure by the monarchy, a rise of 14.9 million or 17% from the 87.5 million in 2020 to 2021. So that's £1.29 per person in the UK for funding the total of the sovereign grant. That doesn't seem like much, but when you add it all together, it adds up to 86.3 million. But yeah, it depends on how much you like the royal family, whether you're alright. 77 pence cost per person of the core part of the sovereign grant for official duties, not including funds for long-term Buckingham Palace works. So it costs 77p for the normal, for what the royal family actually goes out and does in society. So I'm assuming that's like travel, where they're staying, food, lodgings, and everything else that, like security, obviously, everything else that the thingy does, and then the rest to add up to the £1.29 per person per year is going to be for the restoration of Buckingham Palace. 9.6 proportion of staff from ethnic minority backgrounds working at Buckingham Palace compared to 8.5% in 2020 to 2021. Now that sounds pretty bad, alright? 9.6% of staff are from ethnic minority backgrounds. Proportion of staff from working in Clarence House. So they've got here different percentages of ethnic minority staff. So if we Google what percentage of the UK is made up of ethnic minorities, there we go. So that's 14.4% of the UK's population. So that's from Wikipedia. So let's here we go. So what's this? Diversity.org. So this tends to mean they're a government so population estimates by ethnic groups and religion in England. So this is a government website, ons.gov.uk. Main points 2019 to 2011, 1.5. Half the population, that's religion, younger people, more women than men in the UK. Yeah, that's quite nice to know. Right, so this is basically just a big breakdown of what population of who makes up the UK, and that's not what we want. So we want an overall figure. Diversity in the UK. So this is diversityuk.org. According to the 2011 census, the population of England and Wales In 2018, about 13.8% of the UK population was from a minority ethnic background, with London having 40% of its population from Black, Asian, and ethnic minority and ethnic background. BAME is what they call it. So, for all of the UK, 13.8% of people are from an ethnic minority background. So, if we compare that to the percentage of people working at Buckingham Palace, that's under. The target was 10%. So, if they were going to do true representational proportion, it needs to be 14%, let's round it up, from ethnic minority backgrounds. At Kensington House, it's 13.6%, so that's about spot on with the national average. At Clarence House, it's 10.6%. So she ain't doing that bad when you compare it to how many people in the UK are from ethnic minority backgrounds. It's always a funny thing for me that says that, because it sounds really, really bad when you read it, but then when you read the percentage of people in the UK who are from ethnic minority backgrounds, it takes a bit of the shine off of that, isn't it? Obviously, there's still more that needs to be done because they aren't treated equally, but that's a completely different argument. So anyway, moving on. How much does it cost? 63.9 million spending on property maintenance, up from 14.4 million, or up 29% from the 49.5 million in 2020 to 2021. 201 official engagements carried out, almost 2,300 official engagement by royals, by all of the royals. Cost of housekeeping, yeah, yada yada yada. It's breaking everything down a hell of a lot. So basically the overall cost. So let's have a see what the sovereign grant is, because I'm imagining that the sovereign grant is going to be how much we give to the royals to have the royals. What is the sovereign grant? So here's from gov.uk, Sovereign Grant Act. The Sovereign Grant. The Sovereign Grant Act came into effect in the turn, supporting the Sovereign Grant for 2022 to 2023 is 86.3 million, which is what they've just said there. The same as in 2021-22, while net revenue surplus for the Crown Estate fell due to the impact of COVID. Sovereign Grant Act in 2011 accused of doesn't tell us what it is though. Accountability, sovereign grant. Go back, let's see. How much is the sovereign grant? So, sovereign grant needs a reality check, Taxpayers Alliance. Royal Finances. Who is on the sovereign grant list? Ooh, that's who can get dosh from it. Oh, okay, so here, where's this come up from? So this has come up from Wikipedia. The sovereign grant, the payment which is paid annually to the monarchy by the government in order to fund the monarchy's official duties. So basically, it's keeping them alive on what to do. There's a nice little picture there. Let's see if we can get that up. Right, there we go. How the Crown Estate works. And it's got owns with an arrow going to makes profit, is paid to the Treasury, calculates 15 to 25%, which is then the sovereign grant. And then the 15-25% is the sovereign grant, which is then paid to the Queen. The assets of the Crown Estate are not the sovereign's private estate. They are part of the hereditary possessions of the sovereign in the right of the Crown. Okay. So I think what we need to do then is... So it cost 86.3 million this year to have the royal family. So let's add another question into this little list that I'm just looking at on the other screen of how much do the royal family make? Do the royals make for the UK? because that was, like I was saying before, there's articles come up that saying William and his missus have just made 1.3 billion in a day, and I don't know how or where from. How much do the royals bring into the UK economy? That sounds like a good one, doesn't it? So brand finance, that's quite an interesting website. The Express. So the Express was on our list of quite reliable sources, I'm pretty sure. Right on that. Royal staggering sum of money. So how much does the royal family bring in? According to Forbes magazine, the House of Windsor is estimated to be worth 19 billion or $28 billion and pumps hundreds of millions of pounds into the British economy each year. According to financial experts, it is the 1,000-year-old firm's public perception and influence that makes it so valuable. Chief Executive Brands Officer, Brand Finance, Chief Executive of Brand Finance, David Haig, told Forbes it's a very formalised influencer business. Unlikely celebrity family, such as the Kardashians, the Windsors don't make personal profit from the business itself. However, they contribute an estimated 1.9 billion, 2.7 billion annually to Britain's economy pre-pandemic. So this is like 2019. It was an estimated 1.9 billion pounds. However, their value is also linked to things like free media coverage for Britain. Was an estimated. Their value is also linked to things like free media coverage for Britain. Okay, so the media following them about when they're on holiday and shit like that from different countries, which was an estimated 283 million in 2017. Mr. Haig explained there are also many valuable royal warrants granted by the Queen. These are essentially a stamp of approval for high-end consumer products, like Barber jackets or Johnny Walker whiskey. So they have the Queen's stamp of approval, or the royal family's stamp of approval, that means that they can sell it basically in her name, that looks like. So it's like, shit, I really like this, everybody should go and buy it. So that's going to boost the brand's esteem no end, isn't it? And give them a hell of a lot of profit there. The expert estimates the expert estimates the royal warrant can boost a holder's revenue by as much as 10%. Jesus Christ, that's a big deal. A 10% bump just for having a stamp. Companies and institutions, Orbit. How much does the royal family cost the UK taxpayer? There we go. The last sovereign grant account shows that the monarchy cost the UK a few millions in 2020. Well, we've just seen it was like 83. That's not a few, is it? Complicated system of funding the monarchy works when the UK government makes a payment called a sovereign grant to the royal household every single year. The sovereign's grant's value is determined by how much money the Crown real estate portfolio has brought in. Okay, so this is the picture that we saw a minute ago. How the Crown Estate works. The Crown Estate makes money. So I'm assuming this is money that's made by people visiting the royal estate, visiting places that are owned by the Crown. That makes profit, and then they get 15 to 25% of it, as we were saying before. Assets of the Crown Estate. Yeah, we know that. In the right of the Crown. In 2020. Yeah, so then it's just repeated what we've just been. So let's have a look what the Crown Estate is. So, yeah, what is the Crown Estate? The Crown Estate is, so where are we here? I think this might have just come. Property management company. So this might be like, oh, there we go, not from Wikipedia, dumbass. Nowhere to look. The Crown Estate is a collection of lands and holdings in the United Kingdom belonging to the British monarch as a corporation sole, making it the sovereign's public estate, which is neither government property nor part of the monarch's private estate. So it's basically land and businesses that are owned by the Crown, by the British Monarchy, that make money, I'm assuming by people visiting. Let's have a look at this Wikipedia article, see what else it comes up with for us. The sovereign is not involved with the management or administration of these estates and has very limited control of its affairs. So all they do is own it. They don't actually do anything with it. So even if the monarchy was dissolved, this would still exist. Okay, so the estate is overall seen by semi-independent, who exercise powers of ownership. The revenues from these hereditary possessions have been placed by the monarch at the disposition of Her Majesty's government in exchange for relief. Right, cool. The Crown Estate is one of the largest property managers in the United Kingdom, administering property worth 14.1 billion, with urban properties valued at 9.1 billion. So basically this is where it comes from to pay for the monarchy. And they're saying that revenue from the royal estate goes straight into the coffers of the government, and the government takes a percentage of that and gives it back to the royals for them to perform their royal duties, which includes visits in the name of business, in the name of the country, trying to drum up support for us, and anything else. So it more than pays for itself. By a long ass way as well. It's like, it's only 15 to 25% of that revenue that goes back into there, and we get to keep the rest. It goes back into the treasury, so it is making a hell of a lot of money, and they are only taking a tiny percentage to keep going. So it's not as if it's costing us anything. And to say that it comes out of the taxpayer's pocket to pay for the royals is wrong, isn't it? Because they put in a hell of a lot of times more money from the property that they own than they take out. So then they basically pay from themselves with the way that it works. And you can guarantee, so like me saying, even if the royals didn't exist, this Crown Estate would still exist. You could guarantee if it wasn't for the royal family still existing, private companies would just sweep in, break it up and sell it off for as much profit as they could get. So it'd stop putting money into the pot. It would be, if it wasn't for the royal family, then that would all be privately owned, and all that money that I'm assuming comes from visitors and that kind of thing, all that money would be going straight into corporate profits. So that's a good thing. I'm going to say that. I didn't know how that worked. That's quite nice to know. And they're putting a hell of a lot in to the treasury than they are taking out. A hell of a lot more. So what were they saying? It was something like 1.9 billion that they were putting in, but yeah, so it basically pays for itself by a hell of a long way. just before I go into the colonialism thing, I'm going to put in William and Kate make 1.3 billion in a day, because I really want to know what happened with this shit. Did you mean, yeah? No, you see, there you go. First one, Lad Bible. Oh, love a Lad Bible, but no, we're not going there. News.com/AU. So that's an American website, but it looks pretty spot on. Flipboard, the Mirror. Let's see, it's all just spams at the minute. So what was that one there? News.com.au. So we found out that the AU moniker was quite a reliable one. If this does load up. Watch my internet die now. William and Kate make $2 billion, so about £1.3 million. Actually, it's probably a hell of a lot more than that. In a single day after Queen Elizabeth's death at age 96. So this is news.com.au. I think AU is just going to be, in this case... Yeah, this is just like a... Ah, damn it. So yeah, this is just a news website, like a... I think .au is obviously an Australian, like .co.uk. That's just their domain names at the end of it. But still, let's have a look at this. Take it with a pinch of salt, because we can't find any really massively reliable sources on this. On Wednesday, the biggest royal story, William and Kate taking their children. So, yeah, basically William and Kate are now... Prince and Princess of Wales. Is she Princess of Wales? I know he's Prince. So let's get down to the good stuff. Here we go. Getting them to call themselves Cornwall. It comes with an eye-watering... Ah, there we go. So they haven't actually made that. It's just the price of the estate that they've got, which is... what we've just gone through. It's part of the royal estate, so it's not actually theirs, is it? So, just sensational news media again. At the beginning of the week, the couple was hardly on Struggle Street, surviving on 3.8 million they received annually from Charles, which came from the duchy income. So this, again, is all paid for out of the sovereign grant that we've just been reading about. And they didn't actually get 1.3 billion in a day or $2 billion in a day, as everyone is claiming. What they got is an estate, which was part of the royal estate, which, again, we've just been learning about, which isn't theirs, which is the monarchy. But the royal estate that they can now claim as residence is worth 2 billion. So they've not actually made that. And they're still going to be receiving 3.8 million annually to conduct their affairs on behalf of the nation. So, yes, bullshit, which is always quite nice to find out. Okay, so that's answered another question for us. So, last one. Was Queen Elizabeth, let's be specific, because that's who they're shouting at, involved in colonialism? NPR. That's a news network, isn't it? Was Queen Elizabeth associated with colonial or decolonised Britain? So there are a lot of people who are mad about this. There was one, I think she was an American university teacher, who went onto Twitter and wished her an agonising death, which is a really shitty thing to do, but was it deserved? So these are all just big news networks which are coming up for this. Observer Finance, PBS News. Did Queen Elizabeth colonise anywhere? USA Today. So let's go on npr.org. Trying to get money out of us already. So this is Elizabeth was associated with colonial and decolonised Britain. Memory of Elizabeth, complicated by the fact that during her rule, more than 20 countries gained independence. And then it's just quoted someone there. Moses Okonu, a professor of African Studies at Vanderbilt University, told NPR the Queen's death brought attention to unfinished colonial business. In her dual status as the face of colonialism, but also the symbol of decolonialisation, if you actually read the word, that defines how she is perceived in many former British African colonies. O'Connor's own feelings towards the Queen's death are mixed, in part because of his childhood. He was born in Nigeria, a little over a decade after the country saw an end to colonial rule. He recalled how the Queen continued to be fondly associated with prestige and grandeur. Elizabeth was a symbol of Britain's denial of colonial crimes. See, now that's not fair, is it? She didn't do the crimes, did she? Monarch? She cannot be disentangled from colonial... She cannot be disentangled from colonisation of South Asia. Mo Banerjee, a professor of South Asian history at the University of Wisconsin, told NPR. Banerjee's from India, which was granted independence from Britain in 1947, although Elizabeth was crowned 5 years later. Banerjee said many Indians hoped the Queen would express remorse for the damage of colonialism that she had nothing to do with. I get that they want an apology from the Crown, but she wasn't there. That was the case in 1997. During what would be the Queen's last visit to India, Elizabeth told Indians history cannot be rewritten, in reference to the 1919 massacre, where hundreds of Indians were shot and killed by British troops. Yeah, I've seen that. That's no good. During colonial times, India was forced to hand over a 105-carat Kohinoor diamond to Britain. Many are also calling for the return of the Cullinan diamond back to South Africa. The jewels represent a history of coercion, subjugation, loot, loss and grief, Banerjee said. Similarly, the Queen's death has reminded many people of the lack of reparations to former colonies. Reparations is an interesting one, isn't it? But it's many people, there we go, again in this same article, many people are wondering why the British monarchy still exists. For some, the Queen's death had reunited a conversation of purpose, of the place and purpose of the monarchy today. Banerjee has been sceptical of the Crown from a young age, when she would hear her grandparents talk about anecdotes. They say the sun never sets on a British Empire. I think it has set with the death of Queen Elizabeth, Banerjee said. It's now time to come to terms with the history of enslavement and the history of colonisation. Well, yeah, that's true, but it doesn't say why you're mad at the Queen, because what did she actually do? Not everyone mourns the Queen. So basically, because people are mad that she was head of an institution that's colonised in the past, she didn't actually do anything. Seemingly, we haven't taken over any countries in the past few hundred years. We've basically been giving them back. Queen Elizabeth II's ties to colonialism makes grief complicated. That's USA Today. Amsterdam News, Lemonade IFR, theconversation.com. Did Queen Elizabeth colonise anywhere? Queen Elizabeth's stance on colonialism. See, now, Smithsonian magazine there has put Queen Elizabeth II was an enduring emblem of the waning British Empire. Well, yeah, that's a good thing, isn't it? So why are people mad that the British Empire's going away? I thought that's what they wanted. This is from Nora McGreevy. Elizabeth succeeded her father, George VI, upon his death in 1952, when she was just 25 years old. Over a 70-year reign, the longest of any British monarch, and any female monarch in history, she worked with 15 prime ministers, 16 counting Liz Truss, met 13 of the past 14 American presidents, oversaw thousands of engagements, and made 89 state visits. So this is basically just a big thesis. About the Queen's reign. Jesus, it's one of 3. Holy crap. So basically, when it comes to the colonialism question, it looks like people are mad that she didn't do enough to put right what was wrong in the past. Which is fair enough, because it's not that long ago, is it? Here we go. So here's another one from this. Looks like the opposing view. So this is spectatorworld.com. The 9th of from the 9th of September this year, the ignorance of Queen Elizabeth's anti-colonialist critics. In fact, a figure of such stability was essential for decolonisation. Oh man, it's a fucking paywall. Bastards. Queen Elizabeth is not a tragedy, not a life so well lived. So people are mad that she didn't do enough to apologise for colonialism, which you can't be mad at people for shouting at her because of that. What else? I did see somebody who was mad about her for her ties to Israel, which again is, did the Queen have ties to Israel? So that first one, Middle East and I, why did the British Monarchy with the Jewish community? It's not about being Jewish, is it? It's about being Israeli. Israeli leaders. Why did the British help Israel? History.state.gov. Great Britain wanted to preserve good relations with the Arabs to protect a vital... When is this from? Oh, there we go. So this is really, really old. Queen Elizabeth and the Jews. See, this is going to get into some anti-Semitic stuff that I don't want anything to do with. But it's always dodgy when you're talking about Israel in relation to what they're doing to Palestine and that kind of thing. Queen Elizabeth, why the monarch has never been to this one country, but Prince William has. This is the Express writing this. From June the 27th, 2019. The Queen, at 93 at the time, has travelled to many countries overseas. She's Britain's best travelled monarch. However, there's one country she's never been to in her long reign, but Prince William has. Queen Elizabeth never visited Israel in the Middle East. This is due to the conflict between Israel and Palestinian Authority, which has caused unsettlement. The British government has often dictate the countries visited by the royal family. Members of the region may have been deemed politically unwise in the past. Prince Charles has visited Israel, but not on an official visit on behalf of the royal family. He attended the funeral of former Prime Minister in 1995, but not as an official guest. However, while his grandmother has never made a trip to Israel, Prince William has. The Duke of Cambridge, unlike his father, made a trip on behalf of the royal family. In June 2018, he undertook a Middle East royal tour, visiting Jordan, Israel, and the Palestinian territories. So everybody's mad at her ties with Israel, but it seems like she didn't go there for the reasons that they're mad at them about. Prince William did, but he also visited Palestine to try and remain neutral, which, depending on your views of things, is a good or a good thing. We shall never know. So, yeah, that last question is like quite a difficult one. You can understand why people are really, really upset with the royal family after what their ancestors will have been through due to colonialism, but Queen Elizabeth herself obviously didn't colonise anywhere or take over anything. So let's do a couple of last questions to finish off, or we're going to be here all year. Right, there we go. So, what did I want to have a look at? So, what are the countries in the Commonwealth? Commonwealth nations. So there is a hell of a lot of them. And it said that some of these countries were 56 member states from Wikipedia there. It's a political association. So there we go. From royal.co.uk. So let's have a look at this, because I wanted to know what the difference was between a realm and another Commonwealth states. Oh. A Commonwealth realm is a country which has the Queen as a monarch. There are 14 Commonwealth realms in addition to the UK. So it looks like this isn't by choice. These Commonwealth realms don't get to choose whether they're part of the Commonwealth or not, and the other Commonwealth states do. So there's a big list going on the top. If you Google it, there's a big list of the countries in the Commonwealth. So let's do, what's the difference between a Commonwealth realm and a state? Here are EN. Right, what's the difference between Commonwealth, realm and estate? My dyslexia is flaring up there for those of you watching on a video. Commonwealth realm. So this is Wikipedia yet again. A Commonwealth realm is a sovereign state in which, in the Commonwealth of nations, whose monarch and head of state is shared among the other realms. Each realm functions as an independent state, equal with the other realms and nations of the Commonwealth. Current monarch of each Commonwealth realm is King Charles III, who succeeded Queen Elizabeth II. Elizabeth monarch and head of state in unit gives you a nice list there. New realms have been added through independent former colonies. So there's a nice list of the Commonwealth realms. But it doesn't really give us a difference between what that and a state is. So again, this is Quora, which has been coming up quite a lot on today's. Most nations of the Commonwealth are republics. These are Commonwealth nations. Queen Elizabeth II is, however, head of the Commonwealth, i.e. of all members. Okay, so she is also simultaneously monarch of 16 of these members. These are called the Commonwealth realms. Yeah, just basically it seems to be that the realms have the Queen as their monarch, but members of the Commonwealth, she doesn't really have much power there. She is just a member of the Commonwealth. She is just head of the Commonwealth and they are members of that. Very confusing, very ridiculous. Yeah, so I think that's about it. So, very interesting one. Still quite hit or miss, isn't it? So basically what happens with the monarchy is that it pays for itself. They don't have any real power to do anything, but they do bring in a hell of a lot of money, which goes straight into the taxpayers' coffers. They also do a hell of a lot of charity work, don't they? Each of them do independent charities. Yeah, so I'm still like a little bit all over the place. They don't seem to have any real power or any real massive purpose other than to be like a figurehead and something for us to aspire to. Keeping our morality in line. It's quite an interesting one. They do bring in a hell of a lot of money, so I think that is a good thing, but also that pays for them. So it's not coming out of the taxpayers' money because they earn more and give into the tax pot than they actually take out per year. When it comes to colonialism and things like that, there is only really one way that they can go with it. Nobody's going to be colonising anybody anytime soon. All they can do is apologise and apologise again, which I think is something that it looks like she did. Maybe not as much as she could have done, but people are mad at her about that. Basically, she became the face of atrocities that Britain have done in the past, and a lot of people don't think that she did enough to make up for them, which is why a lot of people are mad at her. And you can't really blame them because it's going to be like their grandparents or great-grandparents that were suffering under those particular regimes, because it isn't like really ancient history that we're talking about. So yeah, basically, yeah, let's see what you think. Like, for me, it's kind of like their only duties right now seem to be to make money for the UK, and how can that be a bad thing? I'm not mad at them anymore. I kind of was, honestly, going into this. I was like, what's the point in there being a monarch or anything along those lines? And now you see that while they don't have any actual power to affect real change on our behalf or on their own behalf or for their own gains, yeah, it seems like they make a hell of a lot of money and do a lot for the country, and they definitely do a lot for charity. There's the Prince's Trust, which I think is probably going to pass down to William now. nothing's really been said about that Charles has been doing for years. And yeah, I don't think there's anything more to be said. You can still make up your own mind. A lot of quite interesting things have come up there that I really didn't know. And that's it for now. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I've prattled on for a bit longer than I thought. I can barely hear my own voice. Yeah, so like, subscribe, share, give us a quick follow, and let us know what you think. Because obviously this is just me babbling about what I can find on the internet. If you've got any extra opinions, or even better, any extra links or anything like that, you can send to us so we can do a bit more reading and maybe do a follow-up to mop some stuff up that might not have been as clear as you guys wanted to. Then yeah, definitely send us some links and stuff. But until then, thanks very much. I've been Jay. I'll see you next time. Hello. So it's been a few days since I recorded the Royal show about the British Monarchy, and I having watched it back, I don't think I really did enough of a conclusion. And considering that's pretty much the entire point of why I'm doing the show, yeah, I felt like I'd failed a little bit on the first one, so I thought I'd jump back on and just tag this on to the end. Yeah, it was a good one for me. Really. Brought up a lot of stuff that I definitely didn't know, and at the end of the day, it kind of completely changed my mind. So I didn't really see the point in the monarchy whatsoever, or what they did, or like why they were even there. And by the end of it, after, if you've watched the entire show, you'll know what I'm talking about. Everything that I found out and looked at, it changed my mind. And for me, I think keeping the royal family the way that it is, with some changes obviously, is the best option for the way it is. That's because we saw how much money that they bring in with property that belongs to the crown. It doesn't actually belong to the royals, and as I said in the actual show, we know for a fact that if it didn't belong to the crown, it'd go into the hands of the government, who would immediately sell it off and privatise it. So we'd lose a good couple of billion in public revenue every single year, and that is what pays for the royals to actually do their royal stuff. So they're basically bringing in their own money. They take a small percentage but give the most into the pot. Whether you think that's spent right or anything along those lines on public services is another thing, but yeah, there you go. There are definitely some changes that need to be made. I mean, like, they've protected a sex offender who broke the laws of a different country. That, why would you even do that? That's definitely a negative. So that's something that definitely needs to change. I think that goes without saying. And then you get onto the subject of colonialism and all of that kind of thing, and people have some very, very justified complaints about that. If you're going to do an inheritance-based monarchy, the way that the British one is run, you can't just inherit the good stuff, okay? And there's no denying that the British Crown was the figurehead and was the face of colonialism for years and years and years in the past. It might not be now. The Queen actually did quite a lot to decolonise a lot of stuff, giving places back and in some cases apologising, but it's still not enough. I think that is also an argument to keep the monarchy, because if you just abolish it, then all of that disappears instead of getting made up for. I don't know how they'd make up for it, whether it be reparations or whether it be giving stuff back or whether it would indeed just be an apology. But if you get rid of the monarchy, then you take away that chance to make up for it as well. So again, that's another big argument for me for keeping them. So yeah, on the whole, that's what I came to the conclusion of. You've seen how I came to that conclusion all the way through, which is exactly the point of the show. And if you're still with us, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you at the next one. Really enjoyed doing this first one, so even if no one's listening, I'm going to keep cracking on. Thanks very much.